Radio Polonia
810 AM.
Dla was gra.
It's a real pleasure to be here on Radio Polonia, and thank you for the opportunity to have a chat this afternoon.
You were born and raised in Canada, right?
Born and raised in a little village near Kitchener, Ontario. My father is Ukrainian-Canadian. He met my mother during the liberation of Holland. He was part of the Canadian forces that came up through Italy into Holland, and so they met and fell in love, and my mother came over on the first boat of War Brides. Courageous move, didn't know anyone, hardly knew this guy. I always think about immigrants and what they go through because of my mother's story. So I have a sense of what it means for new Canadians to come to a strange land and settle and put down roots. And although they love to be here and they're really pleased with their decision, it's still tough. Strange culture, strange language, no friends and family necessarily. And it takes an enormous amount of courage to do that. So I've always carried that with me wherever I go. I think actually my parents did influence me in terms of my desire to be involved in politics, to change the world. And I think it was because they both saw the importance of being involved in the community, looking out for one's fellow citizens, caring about the state of the neighborhood and the province and the country. Although they weren't political at all, I think they planted in me the seeds to actually turn that desire for change into politics.
You start in Ottawa, then your political career started in Manitoba Parliament. That was your first job as a Minister of Culture?
Yes, I was elected in 1986, so I was a new-time legislator, first time in a legislative session, and I had 3 portfolios as a minister. I had culture, heritage, and recreation, which was one. And I also was the minister responsible for lotteries, which was quite new to me, since I'm not one to gamble at all. And thirdly, minister responsible for the status of women. So I had 2 years only to work in those areas, and before I even caught my breath, the time was up because our government was suddenly defeated on a budget vote.
What drew you to NDP? To that party, not to Liberals or to the Conservatives?
Well, I was in university, and I looked at all political parties, studied political philosophy and policies, and made a conscious decision that the NDP was the closest to my ideologies, which was to say that the NDP believed that you take the instruments of the state to help improve the conditions of people. So I really believed then, and I still believe today, that the NDP has the best approach in terms of redistribution of income, of ensuring that the government is involved in things like Medicare, pensions, and employment insurance, that these are fundamental so that people don't fall through the cracks because of some turn in the market, some calamitous affair, or some personal crisis.
What made you decide to move from the provincial politics to the federal, to Ottawa?
Actually, interestingly enough, it was the healthcare issue. It was the crisis facing Medicare. One of the most important programs in Canada is our national healthcare system, which allows for universal access. Not perfect, but it means that everyone, regardless of income, is able to access healthcare relatively when needed, and with quality services. Now, back in the early 90s, when I was an MLA, there was this formula happening that would actually allow for federal cash transfers to the provinces to dry up, to end by early in the year 2000. And that would mean the death of Medicare, because it's the glue. You have to have the cash from the federal government to make sure that all the provinces are singing from the same hymn book, so that, in fact, it's the glue that holds the program together. So I decided it was important to get to Ottawa and fight for national health care, stop these cutbacks that were happening at the federal level, and stand up against privatization and dismantling of Medicare. But I didn't get there right off the that because I actually retired from provincial politics in 1993 to run in the federal election. So I didn't make it, but I took those 4 years and I spent time working in the community. And it was probably a good thing because actually it gave me enough of a break from crazy political life to get the energy to go again for another 13 years. And I learned a lot again about the importance of connecting to community. Keeps you grounded, and it's so easy to get off in that white ivory tower of Parliament Hill and forget about where you came from. Then I went on and got elected in '97, and then I had 5 more elections, and had a wonderful experience in Ottawa. Critic of many different areas: healthcare, finance, immigration,
yeah.
status of women's disabilities, you name it.
You name it. In your political career, what you would say, what was the biggest achievement and downfall, let's say?
I'm going to say something that doesn't have a sort of a clear indication of winning something, but it is just Medicare. It's being a voice in Parliament to stop the dismantling of healthcare, to keep it away from the market forces that want to destroy it. So the fact that we still have Medicare, and it's although it needs massive fixing and renovation and renewal, it is still there, and it's still much better than the system we have in the United States. So that's one. Another achievement was actually fighting for. It was both a wonderful victory and a deep sadness, and that was trying to get labels on all beer and wine bottles saying "Do not drink while you're pregnant" because it can lead to FAS. And of course, FASD leaves you with a lifetime of debilitation. Yeah. And so I won that vote in Parliament. It was great. I thought, oh, a victory. But then the downside is that no minister since then, no government since then, has actually implemented that private.
May 3rd was the day that you declare publicly your intention to run as a candidate for a mayor's chair in a coming Winnipeg civic election. Why now, not earlier?
Good question. I've been thinking about changing careers for a while. And people started approaching me to run for mayor going back almost a year. And I stored it away and I let it sit, and I kept thinking other people will come forward and there will be a good candidate ready to challenge the present mayor. It kept coming back to me. People kept saying I had to do this. And finally I said, okay, I'm ready. And so on April the 30th, I resigned my seat in Ottawa, said my farewells, and brought all my stuff back to Winnipeg and settled in for a long campaign. And having announced on May the 3rd that I am running for mayor, I now have 4 more months to campaign hard and to get ready for Election Day on October 27th. I believe I ended up doing it not just because people asked me to, but because of what they were saying, which was, we are a great city. We have so much potential. We have such a bright future. But in fact, we're not achieving the best that we can be. And so I'm campaigning on the grounds that we can be better in the city. We can have a more open city hall. We can do a much better job in terms of safety in our streets, rebuilding our community centers, and tying together the rich cultural and multicultural heritage of Winnipeg to make Winnipeg the center of Canada in terms of diversity, in terms of human rights, and in terms of our rich heritage that will take us into the future. I will still work with the people of Winnipeg North and all of the ethnocultural communities, like especially the Polish community that has been so much a part of my life for the last 25 years. We need to keep working together. And I see that as we work towards change in the city, the Polish community and so many of our other ethnocultural communities have to be front and center in mapping that change and in executing decisions that will build a brighter future for everyone.
Thank you so much for coming to our show and sharing your thoughts and Życie, pasją, your life with passion. And thanks so much, and best of luck on your upcoming election, and hopefully we'll see you soon at the City Hall.
Dziękuję. It's been a pleasure to be on your show.